All right. This is the February 26, 2015 meeting of the Board of Adjustment of the Municipality of Anchorage. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Baron Kucho,
Yep.
John Haxby,
Here.
Robert Stewart.
Yes.
Also present is Julia Tucker, Board Counsel, and Lisa Slusner, Municipal Staff Support. We have a quorum.
Thank you. There is an agenda here. It sounds very formal. Looks very formal. The first item there, unless you have any objection, I intend to follow the agenda as it is printed.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Agenda's good.
Minutes of the previous meeting of 2/18. I know I had a set of minutes here somewhere, and I was looking and saying to myself, oh, here they are. Okay. Have we had a chance to review those? Gilbert?
Yes.
Any additions, deletions, changes?
As the current copy is good
Okay. You don't
from
see.
my perspective.
All right. I don't see any changes. Any objection to adopting those minutes?
Nope.
Mr. Stewart?
No.
Done. Adopted. That was simple. We then get to, there is a reminder here on the agenda regarding the meeting on April 2. And I assume, if my memory serves me correctly, yes, and I see it here. Mr. Haxby, you will not be joining us for that one.
No,
You will need to get your crackers and potato chips elsewhere that evening.
no, I'll grab enough to take with me.
Oh, well, that's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Stewart, are you still good with that date, or is there a
Yes.
problem? I know
Nope.
there was a question last time.
It's still,
Up
we'll
in the
we'll
air.
address it if it happens.
Okay, all right.
Right now, it's an if.
Okay, all right. Well, just remember that to let us know as soon as possible if there's a problem. Okay? We need to work on, why is this not on here?
It's 5A. I think you went past to 5B.
Oh, I went past it. Oh, that's why. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. We've got it fouled up here. Our main purpose for meeting here today is to consider findings and the decision in appeal number 2014-4. And we have all received from our esteemed board counsel a draft. And in fact, we have received 2 drafts. And I gather from looking at it that the distinction between the 2, Ms. Tucker, is on page, the original one, on page 6, there is the item regarding the 10% upgrade limitation notice.
Yes.
And that was left off the alternate.
Yes.
And that's the only change, right? And some typos perhaps.
And some typos.
Okay, all right. I would suggest that we simply stay with the original one, and when we come to the item on page 6 regarding the 10% limitation, we will discuss then what we do with it. Any problem with that? Okay. And I must tell you, I have a lot of changes. So what I would propose we do is we do it on a page-by-page basis. And Ms. Tucker has very nicely paginated the draft, so we can go to the very first page initially.
Yeah, I wanted to thank her for doing that because it really
Oh,
helped.
it makes it easier. I agree, I agree. Mr. Haxby, any changes on page 1?
No.
Okay, Mr. Stewart.
The only thing that I think we should consider there is we might want to add after that Nuremberg Enterprises, or
The what?
Nuremberg Enterprises, the LLC, DBA as GNC, because there may be other DBAs in the city, or under that name.
Oh, You want to add what now? I'm sorry, I see it now, where you're talking
After
about. Yeah.
LLC.
Yeah,
Put in
What do you
parens,
mean,
GNC.
GNC, that identifies
Oh,
that particular
okay.
retail establishment. There may, just to avoid confusion with others, there may be
DBA, what was it called? What is it called?
GNC.
GNC? What does GNC stand for?
It's that vitamin
General
store.
Nutrition something,
Oh, okay,
but that's their,
okay,
That's
That's
a
a
owner.
retail.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
not on that page for me.
Okay, well then let me give you my changes. First of all, in the second line, I must tell you, I tend to follow what this board has done in previous decisions, and that is considerably more streamlined than what we see here today. And consequently, I propose the heading to read Municipality of Anchorage Board of Adjustment Appeal from Planning and Zoning Commission Case number 2014-0094, Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution 2014-040, Board of Adjustment Appeal number 2014-4. In other words, leave out virtually all of the second line, all of the third line, and all of the fourth line. It simply streamlines it.
I have no problem with
And you're talking about the heading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any problem, Mr. Stewart?
No.
Okay, then we come to the first whereas. The appeal was filed by Sears Roebuck. So it should say by Sears Roebuck. Then what I would like to do.
Excuse me, you were saying the appeal was filed? by-
Whereas a limited site review application was filed by Sears Roebuck, not on behalf of
Okay.
Sears. Was filed by Sears Roebuck. In the third line, I would like to delete to accommodate tenant space. Sears is preparing for the Nordstrom Rack retail store to be located within the existing Sears store location in the mall at Sears. In other words, the case has been identified. That's all we need to do.
it. I have no problem.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. The second whereas, I would like, and then simply continue with the third whereas, but delete the words, whereas the proposed amendment to the mall at Sears site plan. In other words, that the very first whereas reads as follows. Whereas a limited site plan review application was filed by Sears Roebuck and Company, in parentheses Sears, on May 14, 2014, for a large retail establishment site plan amendment for the addition of an exterior loading dock, etc., etc.
Okay?
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay? Any problem?
No.
The little second whereas, I would like to move further down. Whereas the application was filed and accepted for a limited site plan review under the provisions of the old Title 21, and I would like to move that after the 1, 2, okay, ahead of the whereas that starts, whereas on July 14, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay?
Okay?
Oh, move it down, so
Yes.
it's 1, 2, 3, it's gonna be number 4.
Yes. Except remember, number 1 and 3 would combine.
That makes sense. I'd buy that.
Okay?
That's okay.
All right. On the whereas that starts, whereas on July 14, 2014, the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a limited site plan review. Add the word "a" after the word "conducted."
Okay?
Any problem?
No.
And then in that paragraph, it says, after this item was pulled, it should read, the item was pulled, from the second to the last line of that whereas. Any problem?
No.
No,
All right, then, in the next whereas, the 6 retail merchants timely filed an appeal. We always add the word time, but I think we should here.
okay,
Delete little a and all that follows it. Delete little b that all follows it. And simply insert of the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So that the whereas reads, whereas 6 retail merchants in parentheses gives the names, timely filed an appeal of the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll buy it.
That's good.
And the reason, by the way, that I'm trying to streamline this is because I'm trying to, not to nitpick here with,
You know what?
but to follow what we have done in the past so that we remain consistent. The next whereas on the first page, I would like to strike altogether.
Which one?
The 2 lines whereas that is on the bottom of page 1. Whereas the Board of Adjustment exercises its et cetera. And strike the next whereas on the top of page 2. And the very last whereas, I would like to add the words, following the word appeal, at a meeting open to the public on February 18th.
Okay. It's okay with me.
That's good for me.
Okay? All right, then we come,
And,
Yes,
Chair, I
ma'am.
have one question, just because it was skipped over. Did you have changes after you combined number 1 and 3 and moved old number 2 down
yeah,
below
Mhm.
new number 3? Did you have any changes in the whereas it says the mall at Sears is a large retail establishment? Okay.
nope, I left that.
You-
Okay. Now we come to the second page. Mr. Hagsby?
I'm good.
Mr. Stewart?
No changes there for me.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I would like to do. First of all prior decisions have the findings numerically listed, one following the other. So it goes from 1 until 93 or whatever. And so what Julia has done here is, as to each issue, she has labeled the findings A, B, and C or whatever. I would like to change the numbering so that it follows what we've done in the past, which is a consecutive numbering system. That's the first thing. Do we have any problem with that? And I would like to do this for consistency purposes.
We
Because-
had an issue there, Baron, when we worked on the actual ordinance itself, where we stuck, it would not be consistent with, when we went into their resolution. Then we changed it, we went 1A, B, C, A1,
But-
A, B, C. You were saying, here you wanted,
Our decision findings, only our decision findings labels them consecutively by number.
I guess it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Simply for consistency's sake, I find that fairly useful because that way you can immediately point to any kind of finding you wish to discuss.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that adds clarity here too, and there are some things that even in the minutes where it said to repeat the findings of this board would be affirming that the P&Z acted appropriately, but the P&Z finding wouldn't be saying that it acted appropriately. So there were or in both visions, and when we get to the resolution, you'll see that. And so I think that this is a very helpful change for clarity
Okay.
here. And when you approve the decision, then the decision that you approve by that vote will also, in effect, amend the instructions that you had, and clarify the instructions you had to council under the minutes. So just
Which
because
was
you
to
decided at the
repeat.
minutes,
Yeah.
that's why we
Yeah.
have this session, to make sure, because I could
Right, right.
have misunderstood something on
Yeah.
top of everything else.
Right. Yeah. Okay, remember that the record on appeal, that was a separate issue. An issue, it was not an issue that is really part of the appeal. We have done this sort of thing before, and so I would like to strike the words issue number 1 and simply start out by saying, as a preliminary matter, and by unanimous vote 3-0, the Board of Adjustment makes the following findings. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it, I agree.
We-
And then 1, 2, 3,
Yes,
got it.
okay?
That makes sense.
And
And if it
strike
stays-
ABC,
Strike ABC and make
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
got it? Okay.
And then you're striking, so we
Issue
don't have to.
number 1.
Issue number 1, and then the way that you read it, you would also be striking,
The Board of
of
Adjustment
address,
decided,
so we
et
don't
cetera,
have to
et
say
cetera.
it twice.
Yes. Okay. Nothing further on page 2, then we come to page 3. Anything there?
Are you gonna do this here as well?
Yes, I will,
Issue
and I
2?
will go through it in a minute, yes.
Okay, that's fine, no,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Stewart?
Go for it. I don't have anything else
Okay.
here other than
All right.
what you're doing.
The issues briefed by appellant, I think it should say issues presented on appeal.
And,
Any
the
problem
chair-
with that?
Well, oftentimes, as in this case, the notice of appeal may not articulate or may refer to decisions that are not briefed. And so I did sort of resist putting issues presented by appellants, because the rule has been, as in all appellate practice, if you don't brief it, they're waived, but you didn't make a decision about that. So the 6 decisions are what they briefed, and what they presented in their notice may have been something else, but you didn't, really
Okay.
address that. So that was the rationale.
That's the rationale. How do we, I'm not feeling terribly strongly about it, but,
So what's the question?
do we leave it as is, in other words, briefed by appellants, or do we change it to presented on appeal?
Or you could do issues on appeal.
Issues on appeal. That sounds good. Acceptable?
Yeah.
That
Okay,
works.
all right. Then issue number 2 is changed to issue number 1. And following is, there should be a little a, is a public hearing, etc., required as a matter of law. Little a, paragraph A, finding A should be named, renumbered as 4, and little b as 5. Issue number 3 gets changed to issue number 2.
Hmm? Are we taking issue number 2 out? Or aren't we taking the,
No,
He's on the next issue now.
I'm on the next issue. It says right now, issue number 3, and that gets changed to issue number 2.
I thought you were just taking issues out,
No,
He,
okay?
I'm just changing the numbering.
Okay?
Okay? Mr. Stewart, any problem?
No.
Okay. A unanimous vote, I'm looking at the second sentence there. By unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment finds.
Well, if you
Fines.
look at the, okay, go
Just
ahead.
1 second. Fines, Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution number 2014-040 is not invalid. Ms. Tucker, do you have any problem with that?
Well, it's an odd construction to make a positive finding on a double negative. And so.
So-
This is-
You know,
Yes.
then you leave everybody wondering what were you doing?
Is
And
Planning and
so,
Zoning Commission Resolution invalid?
and the unanimous vote was 0 hyphen
Okay, all right.
3.
Then why don't we say by unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment does not find resolution invalid, instead of declines to find?
Because your vote was 0 to 3. You took it as a negative, you can look at the
Okay,
minutes, so it's
all
not a
right.
3-0 vote.
Okay, all right,
So the.
that's fine.
That is in fact a real problem when you make these motions negatives,
Yes,
and then you vote
That's
0 to 3
why-
to approve. I mean, it is,
that's why the motions really should be in the positive.
I agree, and
You know,
if we
yeah.
look at this in the
And
future, we ought to do
We ought to
this.
do this, and I thought I had, but apparently I failed to do that.
No, but
So
we've
I
done this on
apologize.
some other stuff as well.
Yeah,
I
but it
appreciate
would make sense to do that. Motion should be in the positive, quite
Get some
frankly.
consistency, so nobody has to
Yes.
guess.
Yeah, so in that case, that one would have been that by unanimous decision, the Board of Adjustment found that Planning and Zoning Commission resolution, blah, 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 was valid.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
for a positive, that's what we
Yes,
should do.
can we do that? Is that?
Well, that's not the, we can do that
Yeah.
if you want to do that vote,
I would-
that's what,
I would prefer to do it that way. Can we do that?
yes, but fix it here,
So we
right
wanna-
here, so
we
that
wanna
our
make a
minutes.
motion on this,
Well, to simply change,
to amend this,
yes.
and then do we have to re-vote again?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Yes.
what you want to do is, I think you want to clarify the decision based on the discussion that you just had here, and restate this motion, and
the-
vote on it, and then that's your decision.
Yeah, I think we have to vote on it again if we're restating.
Yeah, so you could do that.
We can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay, Baron, is your, looking up the legal, or why don't you state, maybe, Julie, maybe you can state what we should.
Would you like me to
Julie?
restate
Yes.
what I said before?
Yes, would you
So,
please?
so what I hear that the board had intended to do was to vote on the motion to make the finding that the Planning and Zoning Commission resolution number 2014-040 is valid.
Yes,
Yes. So I'd like to make a motion for that.
all right. And Mr. Stewart will second that.
Second.
Any discussion?
None?
None.
Okay. All right. Any objection? No.
No?
Adopted. Passed by unanimous vote. All right, so that's what we do. So it reads now, Planning and Zoning Commission resolution, et cetera, will increase rather than decrease the degree of nonconformity.
Okay, before we leave this other one, do we need to call this finding number 6?
But just 1 second, yeah, we're going to get there in a second, yes.
I think that you leave the issue the way it's stated in number 2, is Planning and Zoning Commission
Oh,
resolution.
so you want to leave it like that?
The
Okay, that's
issue is
fine.
still that, it's the vote that you're
Okay.
taking, because that's how they presented the issue.
A unanimous vote. You are essentially only changing the second sentence.
Correct.
The resolution itself. Okay, that's.
And then it'll stop, it'll say by unanimous vote, and this time it'll be 3-0 instead of 0-3, the Board of Adjustment finds
Planning and Zoning Commission resolution, et cetera, is valid on the
is
basis.
valid, is just valid,
Is valid,
period.
simply.
And
Leave it
then
at
you,
that.
and then you move on to this issue is further addressed in conjunction with
With-
related issues
is-
6 and 7.
Well, it should be 5 and 6,
Yeah, 5 and 6, thank you.
okay?
And that's because you gotta give some rationale.
Okay.
And that's where you put your
Yes.
rationale.
Make sense? Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Us?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next one, issue number 4 needs to be changed to issue number 3.
Well, if we're numbering our findings, this is a finding under issue 2, right?
No, this issue, you're looking at the last sentence of issue number 2. This issue is further addressed in conjunction with related issues, numbers 6
No,
and 7.
by unanimous vote, 3-0, Board of Adjustment Planning and Zoning, resolution number 2014-040 is valid.
Yes.
That's a finding, right?
No, that's a decision. That's a decision. That's the decision. It's not a finding. That's the
That's
decision.
decision number 6, yeah?
Okay?
Is that correct?
And what says now related issues number 5 and 6 6 and 7 becomes related issues number 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And that's where the findings are, relating to that resolution.
Okay, I got it.
Okay?
Okay.
Are you with us?
Well, he brings
No?
up a good point. Maybe
Right.
what we want, it's because it has the word finding in it. So by unanimous vote, 3-0, the Board of Adjustment,
Just
yeah, just,
by unanimous vote, we need to change the word fines.
and maybe as with parallel in number 1, exercises its independent judgment in the interpretation of municipal code and
Okay.
concludes the resolution is valid. And then you have that same consistency.
Yeah, and then we don't want to say concludes, because that refers to the conclusions at the end. Let's vote. How about just simply decided? Planning and zoning decided, Planning and Zoning Commission resolution is valid.
Yeah, decides, we put it in the present.
Decides, not finds.
Okay.
Glad you guys are.
That works.
Oh, yes. Decides. Planning and resolution, et cetera, is valid.
Okay,
Period.
That gets rid of my objection.
Okay, good. And then the last sentence of that paragraph reads, this issue is further addressed in conjunction with related issues number 5 and 6. And issues there should be with a capital I. All right, we then come to what presently reads as issue number 4, and that should read issue number 3. And then strike the word strictly. Does failure to comply with AMCR, et cetera, et cetera. And the next sentence should read, by unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment decides that AMCR 2110-209 does not invalidate Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution Number 2114-040.
And do we strike concerning items decided on the consent agenda?
Yes.
You run that by me again?
Okay, so that this, I'm sorry, so that the paragraph reads, does failure to comply with AMCR 2110-209 governing items decided on the consent agenda, invalidate Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution Number 2014-040, question mark. By unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment decides that AMCR 2110-209 does not invalidate Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution Number 2014-040.
Oh,
Okay.
we found that because they pulled it from the consent.
Well, that's what we have in the next one. That's what it says as a finding. And where it says little a on the, towards the bottom of the page,
Right.
that should be number 6. It's finding number 6. We should strike B altogether. And what is little c should be number 7. And number 7 should simply read, modification of planning and zoning resolution number 2014-040 is appropriate for clarification. Anything further on that page?
No.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay. We then come to the next page, and that is page, let me see. Page 4.
4.
Mr. Hagsby, anything on page 4?
No.
Mr. Stewart?
No, I like the rewording that she did there in the
Okay. Let me give you my suggestions. First of all, what's labeled as issue number 5 should be issue number 4. And in the 4th line, at the beginning of the 4th line, we should strike the little word D before resolution. Make resolution a capital R and add 2014-040. So that the sentence reads, is Planning and Zoning Commission condition number 8, in parentheses, to amend the plan and include signage or otherwise to significantly promote access to the common areas of the mall through the Sears store, unquote, close parentheses, vague and illusory, rendering resolution 2014-040 invalid, question mark. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep, it does.
You okay? By unanimous vote 3-0, the Board of Adjustment decides, not finds, Planning and Zoning Resolution Commission Resolution 2014-040, condition number 8 under Part B is reasonably stated and requires no amendment. On the related issue of direct access from leased space, etc., the Board of Adjustment makes these additional findings by unanimous vote. And these are findings, findings that get added to the P&Z resolution?
No.
They are not, are they?
No.
No. we're
They
not.
are, okay. So what is labeled as little a and b should be numbered as
8 and 9.
no, 8 and 9. And issue number 6 turns into issue number 5. And issue number 7 turns into issue number 6. And under what is now issue number 6, little a turns into 10 and b into 11. And that's all I have on that page. Anything else on that page?
Not from me.
Mr. Stewart?
No.
Okay,
No.
Mr. Hagsby,
No.
anything else? Okay, we then come to page
Sugar
5.
Chow.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is one more paragraph. We have a bunch more findings on page 5. And Lisa is asking a question.
May I ask a question about what is now issue number 6? It says unanimous vote, but I have that in the minutes as being a 1-2. That was the one
Oh,
being,
thank
Okay,
you for
good
bringing
catch.
that to our
Was
attention.
that Bob's?
that was
Oh,
Bob's.
that was the.
By a
Right.
decision
Right.
of
Oh,
2
you're
to
By
right.
1.
majority vote, it's
By
called.
majority vote.
Thank you, Lisa. I
Thank
lost
you.
that.
Good catch.
Thank you, thank you. 2 to 1.
Well, are we on, what is new 6?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing two different voices.
1-2 or 2-1?
Well,
We-
not only that, but these findings, the findings below, this says by
10 and 11?
unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment makes these findings concerning the standards. And you voted, all of you voted for these findings. So that part was unanimous vote. And I just didn't
Oh.
even deal
You're right.
with the 2 to
That's
1
true.
thing
Yeah.
because it was another double kind of a negative thing, and I didn't see any reason why.
Does the board?
It's in the minutes, I don't have to re-record the minutes in the decision. And so what I do is I focus on the actual things that resulted in findings. And so that's why these are there.
You're right,
And,
that part
and
was
that
not
Lisa's
addressed.
absolutely
Left
right.
it
It's
out.
just that I had no reason to reflect that vote since you made that up earlier, and then when you got to here, everybody was okay with these certain findings.
I'm okay as long as we don't, it doesn't end up ambiguous in court over, oops.
Well, maybe Lisa will read the finding that she recorded in the minutes for this, and then you can
By
decide.
the way, I have a hang up with number 5 here, but we go to that later. Let's address issue number 6 first. Lisa,
Okay.
can you read that?
Yes, the motion, John Haxby moved that the record does not support the findings on all material requirements of approval, and the motion failed 1-2.
Okay.
Read that again. I made the motion that,
That the record does not
Does not.
support the findings on all material requirements of approval.
Okay, so we should say, does the record support the findings on all material? We did not do that. We did not find. We found.
You had discussion. I think that what the record will show, that after that happened, then you had discussion about how these things were related, and you decided to move on. And so it wasn't declining to make a finding.
we actually took
We-
a vote,
Yes,
and it was 1-2.
yes.
Right,
And
2 to 1.
And the
2 in
vote
favor,
was,
1 against.
the record does not support the findings. And that motion failed.
Right, we said, he said.
But that
it does
is not the
support.
same.
He said it does not support it. You and I said it does support it. So we voted against it.
And nobody made
Correct.
the positive one.
And nobody made the positive motion.
Right.
So his motion failed,
His
2 to
failed.
1.
My motion.
You failed, but we did not make the positive motion.
Right,
Which
nor-
should have followed up.
Really?
For clarification, it
If we
should
want to
have
make
followed
it
up.
clear, and that's what we're doing, we're
Yeah.
gonna go through here and make positive motions, then we should amend it.
Can we do that at
Just
this
like we
point?
did it here a moment ago.
Yes, if you want to make a finding that, before I answer that question, I'd like to back up for a second and answer a different thing.
Okay.
And what I want to respond to is the discussion and the decision was that they didn't have to meet all material findings. And so to go ahead and make a finding now that says that you find that they did meet all material, when your whole decision says that they don't have to meet
it. That's
And so
right.
again, what I'm going to counsel you is, when a motion is made and it fails, that does not result in a decision.
That's true.
I move that
Yeah, yeah,
that
you're
the sky
absolutely
is
right.
green. Well, okay, it doesn't pass. And in this one,
It doesn't
that
mean
one,
that it-
you don't have to have that reflected in your decision. It's accurately reflected in the minutes, but it's not a decision. If the failure to make a finding is a non-finding.
That's
And so you don't have to, and if the reverse of it isn't true. And my understanding was that by the time that you got to these
Right
other
there.
things that we have down here as the findings, everybody was in accord on those. So at that
So-
time, it wasn't appropriate to restate it as doing all material. Mr. Stewart said, you know, but why I'm voting against it is that we've looked at this and it doesn't meet all material. And then
Right, and then
Mr.
we went-
Guchow said, well, that's because it doesn't have to. And so then we said, okay, then you're
Okay.
gonna go
Somebody else to
forward
address.
and
Yeah.
we'll address it later on. And so that's what this would be reflecting. So I would,
Okay, and I tell you what, if you look at 10 and 11, the new 10 and 11,
mhm.
they kind of reflect that.
Exactly.
11
Yes.
does especially.
Right, so
In
even
a manner
though,
proportionate to the extent the proposed limited site plan end and determine the conditions of approval. That kind of says what we're talking about.
and so I think
So
that
really,
it's a-
what you're saying, Julia, is that the vote, the failed motion simply doesn't get reflected here.
in your decision, no,
Right.
we don't have to do that.
Simply leave it off.
And so I did
That's
it,
right.
and so then I did record the
Yes.
things that you did have unanimous vote on, and those were these findings that are
Correct.
listed under, for right now,
Yes.
number 6.
Yes.
And so I would say we wouldn't change that to,
So-
you wouldn't vote to change that to majority vote, even though it's a
So
good
it's-
catch on the part of
Should we
Ms.
just
Yeah,
strike
it's
Shrewsbury.
yes. So
Should we
we
just
simply
strike
leave
it?
it the way it is. No, we simply leave it the way it is. So that the second sentence reads, by unanimous vote, 3-0, the Board of Adjustment makes these findings concerning standards, material requirements for approval, et cetera, et cetera. Paragraph 10,
So it should say makes the following findings.
yes. We could, yes, I don't have any problem with that.
It should say otherwise.
Okay.
Otherwise, somebody might read that and say, well, that's an incomplete sentence.
Okay, makes the following. Okay. All right, and then what is little a becomes number 10, and what's little b becomes number 11. And on page 5, what is little c becomes 12. And what is little d becomes 13. And what is little, I can't even read it anymore, f, I guess it said f, becomes 14. And little,
Little G 15 and H 16.
wait a minute, I don't think we need number g at all.
Well, before we get to that, Baron, you had
Yes.
another issue on 5, issue number 5, something. You said,
Nope, that's it.
You did?
What, wait a minute,
There's
yes.
something you said
yeah,
about.
you
Yes,
said I've got an
just
issue
one-
back on issue number 6, but which is now 5.
Yeah, but, okay, let's finish with issue number 6, so that we can then go back to issue number 5. Okay? Do we actually need little g?
No,
I don't think we do.
for the same reason that you took out a similar one above.
Exactly,
We already found one valid.
yes. So little g gets struck,
Gone.
and little h becomes number 15.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so now let's go back to issue number 5 on page 4. Did the Planning and Zoning Commission err by not including findings of fact, et cetera, specifically by unanimous vote? See, again, declines to declines to find. Can we turn this into positive in some fashion?
Well, let's look and see what the minutes had for this one. So what the motion was.
Regarding issue number 5.
I think we did the same thing here.
Right, but each one you have to look at to see if you can turn it into a positive and what the positive should be.
Yeah.
So, because I struggled with these because I didn't know
I
exactly
you
how
did.
to handle it.
Yes, I know.
So let's see. This one,
Okay, let's go back to the motion, to the minutes, and we are on page, are we on page 5 of the minutes?
4, is it page 4?
Is it 4?
Yep.
Right. So the motion was that the Planning and Zoning Commission erred by not including findings of fact on requirements listed in here. And so on this one, I think you can make that into the positive and have the motion be restated this afternoon to be a motion that Planning and Zoning did not err.
The motion is correct.
Yes.
The motion was correct, but
By
the vote here
unanimous vote.
should be rewritten.
Vote decide.
By unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment decides the Planning and Zoning Commission did not
Err.
err by not including.
Can we do that?
You can, as long as you make that motion, because that's different than what you did. What you did before was you had a failed motion. And
Oh,
now
did
you
we?
want to, yes.
It is a failed motion.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and again,
Yes.
a failure to pass a motion
right.
is not passing the positive of the same motion. But you
That's
can
true.
pass the positive tonight, and so you just want to do that.
Would you like to do that?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we change the sentence starting by unanimous vote.
In issue number 5.
Under issue number 5, now issue number 5, be changed to read as such. By unanimous vote, the Board of Adjustment decides that the Planning and Zoning Commission did not err by not including findings of fact on requirements listed in AMC 21.50.31.
Okay? It's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion?
No discussion.
I have a
Okay.
comment. I would ask that instead of having your motion be to amend this decision, that your motion be that the Planning and Zoning Commission did not err. And then I can go ahead and put that as part of the decision. But to amend the decision,
No, I wasn't saying to amend the decision, I said to amend the sentence.
and that sentence is right here in this decision. And so just move that the Planning and Zoning Commission did not err. That's your motion.
Yes.
Okay.
And that replaces the motion, and then you have the vote, and then, of course, the decision's gonna
Okay.
reflect
I'll
that.
move to change this to the Planning and Zoning Commission did not err.
Good.
Bob?
Thank you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's good.
Second?
All right.
That's-
Any
it
further
cleans it up.
discussion? Ms. Tucker, does that satisfy your concerns?
Yes.
Okay. Any objection to that?
None.
None.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. I hope you can still read all your amendments and.
Me too. We have the recording in case we can't,
Okay.
but yeah, we got
And
that.
between you and I, we can work it out.
Right.
Okay, all right. Then we come to the issue of this ends, the issues as they were presented and as we discussed them and voted on during the consideration of the appeal. Now we come to the thorny 10% upgrade limitation note. And Ms. Tucker previously had it inserted, and then I think there was a suggestion by you, John, actually, to eliminate that, or to delete it.
No, it was by Julia. Julia said, should we delete it? I was thinking that she was slipping it into the planning and zoning one, but looking at this, it really, now that I'm looking at it, it really doesn't matter.
I would like to leave it, I must tell you, because it is not a finding. We specifically, remember, the large heading of all of this portion is findings by the Board of Adjustment. That's Roman numeral 1. This would be Roman numeral 2, and it is clearly not a finding because we talk about it, that we decline to address the issue. So I think that's perfectly appropriate to leave it there.
So
You
this
don't
is
think
under
it'll cloud the
number
issues?
2?
I
On
don't
appeal?
see that it clouds the issues on appeal, because it simply says, we note, and then it talks about the possible different interpretations, but then we say, since nobody raised it, we're not going to raise it either.
Right, my worry about it, and I started it by as I
You want to just
got through, I
bifurcate
had
this?
second thoughts
And
about
why is
including
that?
it. And because we have it, when I got down to the bottom, and I was putting in here that they have 30 days to appeal,
Yeah,
then I sort of got cold feet that somehow, even though the board didn't take it up, I don't want to create some kind of envelope that invites
An appeal?
an appeal on an issue because, you know, we saw that it was there, and I thought, well, there are other ways,
Okay,
and that's why
that's
I
a
put
good
those,
point.
I put those different avenues. The board here isn't limited to just putting advisory things in their decisions. As the board comes across things, we have vehicles within the board's disposal to
we could say. that-
authorize a letter. You could give a
Yeah.
notice to the
I don't disagree. It'd be nice
assembly.
to keep it
I-
out of the appeal chain.
So,
Yes.
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 And I think that
And
makes a
so
lot
I
of sense.
I did welcome Mr. Haxby's response back, but it wasn't because of his response that I took it out. I took it out just
No.
to offer two
Okay. You took it out.
alternatives
I think
here.
that makes
Asked what you
sense.
thought. I
Yeah.
agreed, because, again,
Okay.
Again, and so it's
We
my
don't
my
want-
cold feet, my bright idea to put it in there, and my cold feet
Okay.
when I got down to
But I
the
read
30
through it
days.
after John said that, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, this is kind of gratuitous based on everything else that we've done. And I think it keeps the record on appeal, if it is appealed, it keeps the record cleaner.
To
If we-
keep it in or to take it out? To keep it out. Yeah,
I
I do
agree.
too. I do
I
too.
agree.
Yeah.
too.
All right,
And I
so
think that
are
was-
we
So
all
I
agreed?
apologize to the board.
No, no, no,
Getting
no,
you
no,
all
not at
freaked
all.
out, but I mean, it's an
I-
issue, you saw it, I
you
mean,
know,
it just
Julia,
was
it's your
big.
job to do that.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think there's a different way of handling it, and that is to send a letter to somebody, and I'll figure it out, or Julie will figure it out and say, hey, there's an issue here that we see. that
I
needs
think
to
that would be a very
addressed."
tactful way of doing it.
I think that would be a better way of doing it.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think what I would do is I would write it to Weaver. He's the guy, it was his language specifically,
Well,
and he can solve it with the
Well,
assembly and the planning and
I'm
zoning.
also inclined, isn't Pat still the chair of the assembly?
No, Dick Trainee is chair.
Oh, Dick
of this.
Trainee is.
Mhm.
See, you think that's not?
My inclination was, since remember, the devolution of this board is that it was created by the assembly, and we're really responsible to the assembly.
We are.
That we need to at least send it also to Dick Trainee, to the chair of the assembly.
And I think that both parties would appreciate that. I don't think that
Yeah.
Mr. Weaver would think that you were going over
No,
his head.
no, not at
I
all.
think he would have that, in the way that you could phrase it, is that we encourage the assembly, you as the board, encourage the assembly to support changes necessary to the code. And remember, this was old code, and that was the other
Is it?
thing. We don't know. We'd have to go.
Was it taken over in the new code?
It may have been,
I
but
will
I
take a
didn't have
look at it.
chance to.
Yeah. But let's address
You
this
know,
separately.
we can do that separately.
Let's
You
address
got
this
time,
separately.
and you got,
Okay.
It might be overcome by events if it's changed in the new code.
right.
Exactly.
Right, and I just didn't have
Chances
time
are-
to trace that down.
Okay.
Plus, we
so-
want to wait the 30-day period before we
So are
start.
we all agreed to delete what is presently listed as Roman numeral 2, 10% upgrade limitation note, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes.
We agreed?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's not in
Record should
my-
reflect that
my
we
opinion.
unanimously agreed to delete that. All right, anything else on page 5?
Conclusions will become number Roman numeral
Good.
2.
Well,
They
thank
are
you.
two.
Well, not on his, he's on the first one still.
It's on the old one?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, he's
Oh,
been
I'm on
going
the
through
new
the
one.
Okay.
I'm on the old one too.
All right. Nothing further on page 5, correct?
No.
All right, then we go to the next page. Anything on the next page? Mr. Hacksmith,
No,
Mr. Stewart,
No.
okay. Then let me suggest a couple. Number 3, I would like to leave out all this analogous stuff and simply start by saying the Board of Adjustment takes official notice. In other words, cross out the first 2 lines and the first 3 words of the 3rd line. And why do I have a number 4? And at the end, add considered by the Board of Adjustment in deciding this appeal.
And which one are you on?
He's still
I'm
on number 3.
Still on number 3. Add the words at the end, in deciding this appeal. Okay? And in number 4, are we leaving things in the present tense or in the past tense? The Board of Adjustment substituted its independent judgment or substitutes? Julia, what
I
is-
put it in the revised one, I put it to substitutes
Okay,
in the plural.
that's
I mean,
fine.
in the present.
Present tense, okay, that's fine.
It's part of the typo that I corrected.
On the second to the last line of number 4, strike findings of fact and, because these are conclusions. Incorporates the revised Planning and Zoning Commission decision in these conclusions of law. And start number 5 by saying, in all other respects, Planning and Zoning Commission resolution, et cetera, is affirmed.
read number 4 again.
Number 5?
No, 4.
Number 4? Okay.
You changed it.
The Board of Adjustment substitutes its independent judgment for the Planning and Zoning Commission and modifies Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution Number 2014-40 as indicated in the attachment and incorporates the revised Planning and Zoning Commission decision in these conclusions of law.
Why aren't we just cutting it off after attachment?
Board of
Yeah,
Adjustment
I just
substitutes
don't understand what the
as
hell.
indicated in adjustment,
You got the
attachment.
power to do that.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, just whack everything, because I don't know what the rest of it means.
Okay, all right. That's fine.
Does that work, Julia?
Yes.
All right, and then number 5 should read, in all other respects, Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution Number 2014-040 is affirmed, and the appeal to the Board of Adjustment of Planning and Zoning Commission Case Number 2014-0094 is denied. Is that agreeable?
Read it again.
In all other respects, Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution 2014-040 is affirmed, and the appeal to the Board of Adjustment of Planning and Zoning Commission Case Number 2014-0094 is denied.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart, are you okay with that?
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure it
Yeah.
melded with 4.
Okay, anything else on that page? I don't have anything else.
No,
All right,
No, that's good.
so between Julia and I, we will get this taken care of
Right,
very
but you,
quickly.
right, but now you have to go and make sure that.
Well, just
the-
a second,
yeah,
we are,
okay.
we are not there yet.
Okay.
Okay, anything else regarding the findings and decisions of the board as we now work them over?
no.
Okay? Mr.
No.
Mr. Stewart, no? Okay, then let's quickly go to the Planning and Zoning Commission resolution that we have changed. And you will see that the deletions are the crossed out words, and the added words are the ones that are in heavy print and are underlined.
And this is how it will show up exactly.
Exactly.
In the decision.
Yes.
Got it, okay, good.
Okay.
Okay? Any changes on the first page? Mr. Stewart?
The only thing that I question is why we're using the LRE abbreviation, because it's not used anywhere else.
Oh, good catch.
Yep.
But isn't it used in the code as an LRE?
No.
In code it is.
Yes,
it?
in
Mhm.
code it is.
Mhm. But I don't think that, I mean.
That's why I would leave it in there.
But it's not used in the resolution
resolution.
anywhere else.
No, it's not, but if they go back and they start looking through code for LRE, and where LRE may not be spelled out as a large retail establishment, I'd rather leave it in there, just so that there's some tie back to the original code, because I think back in original code, it does state somewhere LRE, it just says LRE in several of the sections.
I know it's used in the staff recommendations. They use it once in a while.
They do.
But I just thought,
But that's just a shorthand that the department uses.
yeah,
It doesn't matter, you still want to
You want to
tie
leave it in there?
I'd really rather leave it in there.
Okay. It doesn't trouble me, I mean. Mr. Stewart, how do you feel?
well, my objection to it in the beginning was, if I look at this, I'm gonna look elsewhere for the definition of LRE in this resolution. If the resolution's looked at by itself.
I understand what you're saying from a drafting point of view,
Yeah.
but
But if
we could
No, I think it's.
We could fix it by saying, where is the large retail establishment, in parentheses, also known as LRE.
Except that then you got also known as LRE, commonly known as Sears Mall, so you have
That's
to
not good.
redraft that.
Yeah, that's not good.
Oh,
You're right. So that's not a good solution. Strike that. I would suggest we just leave it, quite frankly. Leave it in there.
okay.
Good enough,
Yeah, it's fine.
Mr. Stewart? Good enough for you?
I can live with it.
Okay, all right. So we just leave it in there. Anything else on the first page? I hear nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Okay, I have nothing. Anything on the following page?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Haxby?
No, I'm good.
I have nothing. Anything on the third page?
No.
Mr.
No.
Stewart? I have nothing either. So, the revised decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission stands as we have discussed it and as we have it with those, with no change. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I want to acknowledge, as I did in email, that the changes that I made here may not be word for word the same as reflected in the notes, because in going through
Okay.
them, I had the benefit of your discussion, so I want to make sure that the only changes that I made would have been grammatical or clarity, but
Okay. So, then let me ask about the present tense versus past tense in 1A, Planning and Zoning Commission conducted.
so I changed that to conducts on my copy.
Well, that's what I have
Oh,
here.
oh, you have
Do you like,
conducts.
do you prefer the present tense as opposed to,
Well, I think on that one, that I looked at that they use the present tense in all their other findings, and so,
okay,
again, this is one where you would be looking
Yes,
at them and
you are
saying
right.
conducted,
Yes.
but they're looking at themselves and they're saying we conduct, and so when you're affirming it, you would have said, yeah,
Yes.
we've found that they conducted, but they can't find for themselves that they conducted. Do you understand what I'm
Yes,
saying? And so
yes.
that's
Okay.
exactly the heart of
yes.
the minor changes, and
I
so.
have one on page 1, under A1C,
Yes.
the proposed limited site plan review. It's not an amendment.
You know, I had that initially and then I crossed it off again.
Well, they approved an amendment. I mean, you have to, that's what the application for. They're amending that site plan by adding a loading dock.
It was a review. They conducted a review.
And the
But once they were done reviewing, they made amendments.
The site plan was amended after that.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
vehicle, the method to accept that and review that amendment application is a limited site plan review. And so sometimes I even put it all in there. Like in number 1, I said the planning and zoning conducts the limited site plan review.
So it should
Okay.
remain as
Okay.
amendment,
Okay.
because that's
That's
the
fine.
product.
I-
That's what came out of it.
Got it, okay.
And
Well,
then-
you guys are all lawyers, I'm glad I'm just
Right.
hanging in.
And then this is also a good one, though, to illustrate what I was talking about before. In the minutes, it's gonna have what, so I had put, you'll see that the proposed limited site plan amendment, and then I put together with the conditions of approval, instead of leaving conditions of approval down at the bottom, where it says with the conditions of approval. Because that with the conditions of approval, I think, is what they used to call a dangling participle, and it was part of the confusion.
You've got it.
And so I incorporated it up at the top so that we were clear.
Yeah.
So the minutes are gonna reflect it a little bit differently, but the meaning I kept throughout. And I when you're
Yes.
approving this, I wanna make sure that it's reflected that you knew and understood and accepted this rendition over what
Absolutely.
might be
Yes.
reflected as a word for word. Because
Yes.
that's what you told me my job was to,
Exactly.
You know, you
Go back
immediately
and do
go
that.
from law to English, and now I'm an engineer. and
I know.
All right.
Terrible.
Okay, is there anything else regarding our rewrite, partial rewrite of the P and Z Commission resolution?
None.
None? Mr. Stewart?
No.
None?
No.
Okay, so the record should reflect that there are no other changes. So then, we are at the point where we can,
So what I would like you to do, if you don't mind, is to go ahead and vote on accepting.
well, that is
Okay,
precisely
so
where
sorry,
we are
excuse me, I was
heading
afraid you
now.
were going to
Just give me
something
a
else.
second
I
here.
am so sorry, I am so
Verbalize
sorry.
exactly that. So we are now in a position to approve what we have discussed now over the last 45 minutes or close to an hour. And so I will entertain a motion to approve the findings and decisions of the Board of Adjustment and the rewrite of Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution number 2014-040 to reflect what we have changed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
None.
None.
Seeing none, it has been unanimously approved. All right, so then we come to just a couple more items here on the agenda. Any new business? Seeing no new business, we move to reports. There are no reports. Member comments? Any member comments? No member comments. Audience participation, and I should caution anyone who wishes to participate or who wishes to make comments that audience participation may not concern adjudicatory matters before the Board of Adjustment. When adjudicating an appeal, the board may consider only material contained in the appeal packet. It may not hear argument nor take additional testimony or other evidence. And this is based on AMC 2130-OAB. Anyone wishing to in the audience wishing to make comments? Seeing none, we then come to the last item, and that is the adjournment. And if there's a motion to adjourn, I will entertain that.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded, and agreed unanimously to adjourn.